But you're saying these police officers are lying then, who spoke to the investigators?
I am absolutely saying that report was falsified, 100% fictitious, falsified.
Lies and innuendo on a Sunday morning. Bold claims from Congresswoman Nancy Mace as her poll numbers keep dropping in the race for governor. She says she's been exonerated after airport police claim she created a spectacle at Charleston International last month. We remember that. There's the video. And she says Alan Wilson now had a lot to do with this. The AG, though, he has some words, too, and not so pretty on a Sunday morning.
What's important to you as we get into the 2026 election season? Polling from the governor's office shows the highways and byways all of us drive every day are still a major concern, but that isn't all. We'll look at the issues that make South Carolinians tick.
And making South Carolina healthy again, SNAP benefits are flowing again after the government shutdown, but the Palmetto State is putting the brakes on some of the foods people can actually buy. But does it actually improve access to healthy eating?
One of several questions we're addressing this week as it's Sunday in South Carolina, and this week's Connect to the Capitol starts right now.
We got families are growing, businesses are growing. We got enormous natural resources. We have to protect them, and we have to grow too. And those things work hand in hand.
The governor this past week talking about South Carolina's environment, our natural resources, the need to balance that with the booming growth that is happening here in so many different sectors. And that is where we begin this week on Connect to the Capitol, as always, joined by Catherine Glenn Foster and Dave Wilson. Now, new internal polling from the governor's office addresses a lot of things. I mean, too many to list, in fact. So we're just going to have to pick a few here about what's important to voters here in South Carolina. His approval rating's sky high, but he's not running for re-election, so that doesn't really matter.
Right.
But the economy matters to people, is what we're finding in that polling.
Really is, because I think when you, again, take a look at who the polling is with. It is with Republican primary voters who have voted in at least the last two presidential elections and two recent primaries. Now, in the world of politics, we call those the 4 of 4 primary voters, which means that you voted in 4 out of the last 4 elections. So these are the people, Catherine, I think, who are really attuned to what's going on because they're actively involved in politics.
That's right. And so more than half of those people listed the economy as their top issue. An open questioning, single top issue, roads, bridges, infrastructure. We've discussed that recently.
Forever.
Yeah. Still have questions about the tax rate and whether that gas tax may go up. There's a lot of concern about potentially increasing taxes, despite the fact that we know that we're falling behind with inflation on the rate of keeping up with our roads and bridges and those repairs that have to be done to get us home safely.
Everywhere we go, we see repairs being made to our roads, and a lot of steel plates, for that matter. So we know there is so much work to do. So not a surprise that shows up high on the list.
Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. But one of the things that really stood out to me, in addition to the economy being high on the list, social issues being very low on the list, saying, please don't waste any more time debating these issues, that we're pretty happy where we are. Let's leave it. But it's the fear-based narrative. When we have 22% of the people, consistently watching Fox News and an additional 11% turning to some of those other conservative TV networks, Newsmax and others. And so there's this fear-based narrative that's playing out a little bit in the polling when we see concern about things like crime and wokeness and that coming out. It really, I think, emphasized the kind of sky is falling narrative that some of these groups, some of these stations kind of make their bread and butter on, and it's playing out. I'm seeing that reverberating in my own life. People I know, smart people, who are now afraid to go into cities and just have a meal. And so for me, I think we need to have a lot more getting to know folks, a lot more
some conversations,
handshakes, instead of just closing and locking your door and saying, okay, well, those inner city folks, let's not go down there. We're inner city folks.
Well, it's why why the conversations that we have here on Sunday morning are so important, because we're trying to go beyond flashy headlines to actually talk about the issue so that you better understand what's going on, but also to recognize the fact that it is so easy to live in an echo chamber. And keep in mind that Republican primary voters skew older. The vast majority of 4 of 4 Republican primary voters are over the age of 55. And so there's a lot of watching of news as you're sitting around in retirement or whatever the case may be. But the news sources do play a huge factor into that. The other thing that was interesting coming out of those numbers is people's concerns about taxes. Some of them are less concerned about getting the reduction in income tax versus property tax. Now, this goes back to the discussion that we had the other day about who funds which roads and how all of that gets paid for, whether that's paid for at the state level, which we have one of the largest road systems in America for being the 40th size of state, or do they go to property taxes? And how do we handle then the growth of people coming in and out of South Carolina, especially because we have had huge growth in our state? So when we come back, we're going to have a conversation with some familiar faces here on Fox. Andrew Shue from the Melrose Place days and Trav Robertson.
That's right. Good old Trav.
Catherine and I are going to have a conversation with him.
Drop the gloves.
When we come back.
Welcome back to Connect to the Capitol. A recent Gallup poll shows the impact of polarizing language in today's politics.
In a poll conducted in early October, 69% of Republicans and 60% of Democrats said that the use of inflammatory language by the parties is on the rise and impacting the way we talk about politics.
In fact, more than 90% of respondents blame the opposing party for the problem, which is up by more than 20 points from a similar poll conducted back in 2011. But here in South Carolina, a new effort is on the way to find ways to bring Republicans and Democrats together on the issues that we can all agree on.
Joining us this morning is a familiar face to some of you from television past, Andrew Shue, and former South Carolina Democratic Party Chairman Trav Robertson. Guys, thanks so much for joining us this Sunday morning. It's been great to have you here.
Yeah, well, I feel welcome back on Fox.
It's only been a little while since you've been on Fox, so.
Don't age me.
Let's talk real quick. So all of you at home, a little bit of background. We've been working together on a project called the South Carolina Forum. How do we turn around and engage people beyond what we've just talked about, where polling numbers tend to show us, my word, we're the most polarized we've probably ever been, to actually figure out ways that we can work together. But Andrew, you were the one who kind of drove this whole idea. How did you get here?
It's a long story, but I'll make it short. Look, I'm a dad. My son just got married. He said he's having a kid in 2 years. I'm genuinely worried about the future for my kids, my potential grandkids. I think all of us know that something's not right in our society. Here locally, you talk about all politics is local. And so we have been working on this project for about 6 years with the simple idea that Americans need to come together. They need to build their own power, so to speak. And the only way to do that is to build consensus and to work on solving problems together. So we said, where could we do this first? We came down here to South Carolina. We wanted to get some credible leaders from the Democratic Party, from the Republican Party. Let's build a local team here. Let's build a process that can invite all South Carolinians to the table. We're going to use technology so that this can scale. Let's make sure that it's credible, make sure that it's not political in the sense that it could be, stolen by one party or the other. This really has to come from the people. And let's co-create legislation together. So this becomes a healing mechanism, a reform mechanism, and a way for us to get out of the mess that we all feel that we're in, where things have gotten, violent and ugly. And I think that the time has come for the people to come together and kind of put down the swords And so that's why it's so great to have you guys here helping lead this. And I got to say, this has been a lot of fun. It's been exciting. We see people across the state saying, let's do this. This is going to be different. It's something we've never done before. So this is just the beginning of this conversation. And again, I'm so proud to be working with you all on this.
One of the most interesting things to me in polling is how different the results are depending on the question that you ask. When you ask a question and it sounds Republican or it sounds Democratic, all of a sudden you start getting a very different answer than when you say, well, how do you feel about our state's education, healthcare, roads, some of those issues that really impact everyone at some point. So, Trav, in your role representing a lot of the Democrats here and the Democrats in this initiative, how do you handle your messaging to be the most inclusive and to reach that 70+% of South Carolinians who do agree on these issues?
Well, I think that's the great, ambitious part of this project that Andrew's brought us all together in, and that is there is no agenda other than seeing which ideas people can agree on. And the technology has been tried in other parts of the country, and this is the first time it's going to be tried here in South Carolina in one fell swoop. And our goal is to bring 100,000 people together digitally to see what their ideas are and then see what comes to the top. I have no agenda, Dave has no agenda, Andrew has no agenda, but to get people engaged in this process.
We have seen statistically over the last dozen plus years the impact of people not showing up to vote. I mean, Trav and I have had these conversations at various times on various shows over the years, but as we begin to look at this, you're talking about less than 2% of a population being involved in this process. But honestly, there are times where that seems to be more than what we see in the electorate showing up. So Andrew, from your standpoint, what do you want to see happening as we bring people together to find what are the things that 70% of us agree upon?
Well, I think the main thing is for so many folks who are checked out because they believe they aren't being heard, or we're just changing the chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't matter who we elect. We don't have trust now with our elected leaders. So I believe by people showing up, and we have to do a real good job of making sure we're getting to every corner of the state and every demographic and doing the marketing, the advertising to get them to come in. We can make it really easy. This digital platform makes it really easy. You could spend 10 minutes and now your coin just counted in the machine. And some people will spend 10 hours and some people will spend 10 days. But it's set up to allow citizens to start to take their power back. And I think it's something that will build on itself. And if we set this up right, it'll happen every year. And we don't want this to be adversarial with the legislature. We want them to be aware of it. So we're talking to leaders on both sides, and they've been really open to it. They realize what's happening right now is not working. They know that. So we have to start trying something new.
Right.
And I think it's important to note that this is not to replace the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. As everyone who has seen me on this station, I'm a pretty fierce advocate for my position.
I could only imagine, having been there before.
But the exciting part of this is that it is a deliberative process where people are in a safe space. They can talk about ideas and say, what makes you believe this and why do I believe this? And find issues that independent voters, Republicans, Democrats, and swing voters all agree on to move our state forward.
Yeah.
Well, we are so grateful for both of you coming in for this conversation. And we'll have a more in-depth conversation on the South Carolina Forum on a Connect to the Capitol Extra. Be sure to catch that at WACH.com.
We'll be right back.
South Carolina has now become the 18th state to enact restrictions on SNAP benefits. This week, the state received federal approval from the USDA to restrict certain items from SNAP purchases, including soft drinks, candy, energy drinks, and other sugary beverages, including sweet tea. It's a move by Governor McMaster to get South Carolina in alignment with the Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again campaign, but it has resulted in quite a bit of discussion, shall we say.
From a lot of different sectors. You got retailers saying it's going to hurt them in some financial ways. So, of course, the data from health experts makes sense in restricting certain items. South Carolina, 36% of adults, according to the CDC in this state, are considered obese. We understand the effort here, but the question even you've raised before the show is, okay, we're going to restrict candy, we're going to restrict all that stuff, but can you still buy a nice, good, clean cut of meat or vegetables? Does it increase access to that? I don't know.
That's exactly the problem, because we already have the issue of food deserts, where in certain segments of the city, of the state, there just isn't enough access to good, healthy foods. We can all agree that there are issues with obesity, with diabetes, with some of these problems that can arise out of not getting good nutrition, but how do we actually get people to do that? And is restricting candy bars going to actually make a difference, or do we need to take a much broader look and try to find a way to make those healthier foods more affordable, not just cut off access to, too often, the only foods that people may be able to afford?
I think it's just one spoke on the wheel is what it is.
It really is, because you look at the statistical average of what a SNAP benefit per person per day in South Carolina is. It's somewhere between $6 and $6.50. I don't know what it's like for you at home, but to have $6.50 to buy healthy food, I mean, let's just be honest. I can go over here to the kitchen and get a canned drink for $1. You can maybe go to the store and get it for $1.50. But you want a bottle of water? A bottle of water.
That's about $2.
Right. You want to buy a banana, or you want to buy an apple. Those things are not they're not as affordable as sometimes you can find with candy and other things. So how are they going to start leveling some stuff out to actually make healthy foods affordable? They have at least until the end of August to begin the implementation of all of this.
That's right. And yet, when we look at the actual picture here and the fact that we're increasing regulation in a state and in a party that's trying to generally go down on regulation, that really, it raises a lot of questions about why certain populations get regulated and then other populations don't. When it comes to the retailers themselves, they have a lot to think through as well, because they're going to have to implement all new systems in a lot of cases. There is going to be a cost involved with that, and so we may also see retailers that are perhaps even offering a wide variety, even some of those healthy foods that the state wants people to get involved and actually be purchasing. Those retailers may stop offering SNAP benefits as well.
Yeah, those changes you're talking about, we heard about those the other day. We did a story with the South Carolina Retail Association. The concerns are real. They got to play ball with the rules, but they're going to have to make changes.
Definitely.
Exactly. When we come back, we'll be talking about a little issue that happened at the Charleston airport a few weeks ago.
Oh, one of our favorite topics.
Exactly. With Nancy Mace, we'll be talking about continued fallout from what happened in that airport kerfuffle.
And to me, it was an incredible hit job. It was effective. It was a very effective political hit job, but that's all that it was. And
who do you think was doing the hit job?
Oh, it was the Attorney General Alan Wilson. I mean, literally.
Do you think he conspired with the police and TSA at the airport?
6 minutes after they released the falsified reports, he had a news release and a press thing on social media. Like, it was all boom, boom, boom.
So for me to have been able to have that kind of control over her was what you would have to believe in order for this to have actually been true.
So you had nothing to do with the day that it came out, knowing about it. I think she said 6 minutes after or something like that.
I mean, look, I don't know the timeline, but people were whispering about this and talking about her mental meltdown at the airport for the days leading up to the FOIA release from the airport. At the end of the day, she's saying things that are delusional, and this basically reminds me of a spoiled brat, an entitled spoiled brat.
All right. How's that for a Sunday morning? We saved the best for last this week. The gift that keeps on giving this holiday season. The Congresswoman Nancy Mace and that, well, we're looking at it. Part of what happened at Charleston International last month that led to her accusations just a few days ago against the AG. Apparently he orchestrated the whole thing.
Apparently.
WWE SmackDown on a Sunday morning.
And now the airport won't be providing security for any dignitaries. This is why
That's
we
right.
can't have nice things.
That's right. Those accusations, though, made on a national platform that can easily be refuted.
I've wondered where the massive weather systems are that are mixing with the dirt around, because the mudslinging is hot and heavy right now. I think you look at Nancy Mace, who has just tried to do everything she can. I mean, you can't see a post from her without neon pink letters, Nancy Mace, on the post itself. So she's putting it out there. The information was put out there in the public. If it's put out there in the public, folks, guess what? It's free game for everyone. And this is where, if Alan Wilson's office or Alan Wilson's campaign, to his point, knew that the FOIA was going to be coming out, guess what? They were prepared, and they wanted to call it for what it was.
As any campaign should be.
Right.
They wouldn't be doing their jobs if they weren't prepared.
So what did Alan Wilson do instead? He went to Waffle House, got waffles, and delivered them to the TSA to say, thanks so much for your service. I don't care who you are. You don't have a right to go and start blasting people, calling them idiots, effing this and effing that. We're being good on television. We're trying, because that's what she said. She said, if I dropped F-bombs, good. If I called them idiots,
But
fine.
now she says she never did that.
Right, and it's all made up, all fabricated. I loved the Attorney General's response there, serving the public servants.
Sure.
That was just, it was fantastic, because as his foil, we have an elected representative, a Republican, supposedly the party of law and order, attacking the police, ripping into them repeatedly, not only at the airport, but then claiming that they made the whole thing up. She's the party of law and order and is ripping it apart, just becoming the queen of grievance
And
politics.
doubling down by threatening lawsuits against the airport, against the airlines, against, heck, anyone who was there.
Well, she complained about the fact that nobody was at the door, and there was some miscommunication on that. The guys from the airport police admitted, listen, we dropped the ball somewhere.
We made a mistake.
We made a mistake. Great. If you're going to have a mistake, own the mistake and move through that. But take a look at the footage. She said, I stood there for 10 minutes waiting for somebody to get me through, because I refuse to go through the line like everybody else.
Queen of grievance politics.
Public service puts the service before the public.
Correct.
And that is, you don't have some sort of special privileges here, or if you do, maybe you just say, I'm grateful for, as they say in there, it is a courtesy to offer that type of security walkthrough. But she says it wasn't the first time. It's happened more than a dozen times.
And this really isn't even about the TSA. It is about temperament.
Yes.
It's about leadership, and it's about who we want representing us, not only in the time of crisis, not only when the hurricane is barreling down on us, who's behind that lectern. Yeah. But we care so much about how people are treating the public servants around them, treating the quote unquote little guy, the people at the airport who are helping you get through safely.
But make the engine go.
Yes,
Yeah.
we care about those people.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we appreciate those people.
And I think actions have consequences, as we say quite often. And you're seeing poll numbers beginning to drop for Mace.
Yes.
So maybe pitching a fit may not do so well for you in the polls. That is something that you're going to have to sit down and evaluate, just like you sit down at home and ask the question, is this going to be the best thing for me to be able to do or not? And if it's not working, it's time to try something else.
It's not a case, I think, of any publicity is good publicity.
No, not at all.
As the numbers would indicate there, but we had a good show.
Yes,
we packed
we did.
a lot into this 30 minutes today, and we had to save the cleanup hitter for last.
Yeah, this is true.
We had to.
We call that a kicker for a reason.
Yes, we do. That was more than a kicker. Thanks again for joining us this week for Connect to the Capitol. We will see you again next Sunday morning.
Stay warm.
Have a great week.